Hey, everybody, and welcome to the HERstory Collaborative. My name is Jen Buck, and I'm your host here in the collab. I'm a professional speaker, an executive strategist, an author of 5 books, and a nonprofit founder. My speaking and training business is focused on advocating, activating, and amplifying high-performing women. And that's really what the HERstory Collaborative is all about, trailblazing women who are changing their little corner of the world. Now, today, my guest is a true trailblazer, Deedra Abboud. Deedra is a Phoenix-based attorney and author, featured in the book Love Meets Life and Campaign Chronicles, which comes out on Monday, March 8th, right around the corner on International Women's Day. She's the founder of Global Institute of Solutions-Oriented Leadership and highly respected for her unique perspectives on politics, community advocacy, and life. Originally from Arkansas, Deedra happily lives with her husband of 20 plus years in Scottsdale, Arizona, and is always willing to engage in uncomfortable conversations that can bring us closer together. So welcome to the collab, Deedra.
Thank you.
I am so glad you're here. And we're right on the eve of this book that you have coming out, which is totally exciting. Campaign Chronicles. I feel like I've been on this journey with you for the past several years. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Well, I mean, basically, I was running a campaign and I always record things, write them down, just so I can reflect and think about better ways of talking about something, really digging deep. And one time I decided to share one that I just thought was really outlandish on Facebook, and it basically went viral. So then I was like, this is actually a great way to get people talking about this stuff who aren't with me all the time.
Yeah.
So then after the campaign ended and got everything together, I compiled it all into a book. It's entertaining, it's humorous, it's thought-provoking, it's shocking, but it's an easy read.
Yeah, it is. And I am fortunate enough to have gotten an early edition, and I intended to read just 1 or 2 pages, and I was so into these conversations and the meaning behind them, and what you sort of encapsulate when it comes to what these conversations mean and what we need to think about, that before I knew it, I was on page 13 and I was just eating this stuff up. And the thing that stood out to me, which I love so much, and I think you do this well, is no is a complete sentence.
With a period at the end.
With a period at the end. Yes, exactly. And so you get a lot of really interesting questions, right? You are an American Muslim woman who wears a scarf, and you, I imagine, I've seen it firsthand in our community, are often asked questions and people aren't sure of how that really works in politics. And so I imagine you get some really crazy questions at times.
Well, being in politics, I mean, all it does is it makes it up level. It's like really out there, and people feel empowered to talk to you, and then all of the stuff just comes, throw up on you.
Yeah.
But in daily lives, we get this too. I mean, as a Muslim, I get crazy questions like, do you have horns under your scarf? Do you take a shower with the scarf? Do you have hair? Does your husband ever see your hair? But then as a woman, just a normal woman, it's how many times reporters asked me, they want to talk about my clothes instead of the issues. I mean, women get this all the time. And bringing them all together is in the book, that a reporter asked to get together with me to do an interview, and they wanted me to meet them. They said, can we meet at the mosque? And I said, well, which one? There's like 32 here in the Valley.
Yeah.
And they said, well, whatever mosque you go to. And I said, well, why do you want to go to a mosque? And they said, well, we want a good backdrop. And I said, well, where do you normally meet politicians to interview them? And they said, oh, at a coffee shop or your office. And I was like, those sound good.
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, it just sort of, this country is so polarizing as it is right now. But being a woman, I think that there's something that people believe they're allowed to go further with a woman in politics, ask for more, ask a question, and then when you give an answer, maybe push that further. Are you sure that's your answer, kind of thing? I've seen it firsthand working in politics, and I just admire that you can navigate through it, because it's not easy.
It helps a lot when you don't end your sentences with an uplift as if it's a question.
Yes, absolutely. And I talk about that a lot in my business because I'm working with women, helping them to speak, helping them to, give keynote presentations, helping them to manage a boardroom, whatever it might be. And it is this uplift is a big, big problem with women in our country in general. And it's, yeah,
Well,
I
men already
agree with you.
think that you're unsure.
Sure.
So the uplift, simply makes them confirm their bias that you are unsure.
Yeah.
So, you
Yeah.
know, doing everything that we can to be more sure.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your organization. You have this organization that you are involved with that has to do with not only community, but also, these conversations that are difficult and challenging. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, basically, I teach people, groups, businesses. I teach them how to really look at some different tools that will help you combat biases, attacks, bullying. Really, my primary thing is adult bullying, but that comes in so many different levels, and we don't
Yeah.
even recognize adult bullying, and which it really does exist. So it's learning these tools, the tools that speak to you, that are more natural to your way of being,
Yep.
and then utilizing that to defend yourself and not take things personal, but have responses, not memorized responses, but types of responses that are natural to you, so that
Mhm.
you can really excel in all of the navigating of really strange conversations that happen in our lives. Because the majority of the strange conversations that happen in our lives are either going to be people who we're really close to or think we're close to, or they're going to be complete strangers. And both of them, really put you off your game.
Yeah, they do. They do for two different reasons. Because on one hand, you think, we're closer than this.
Right.
What is happening right now? On the other hand, you're thinking, we're not close enough at all for this. And so you're right. There's this interesting middle ground that wouldn't dare, but these weird fringes, they go there, and it does throw us off our game. And I do think that having some kind of, practiced and very, very succinct answer is healthy, to be able to manage those boundaries and be able to hold your space. I think that's really powerful. And I think you do that in this book as well.
Yes, and each at the beginning of each chapter, it actually discusses very lightly one of the tools, and then the conversations within that chapter fall within that tool in some
Yeah.
way. Some of
Yeah.
the beginning of them, are really on target.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I can't wait to read the rest of it. I've already found myself jumping back in a couple of times, and I think it's excellent. And I feel like for me, I'm jumping back into a time that was really exciting when you were running, and I was hearing these conversations as you would process them, right? At the end of the day or the end of the week, whatever it was. And by the way, on a personal note, I right now am sort of begrudging, that whole race again, like many of us in Arizona right this second, right? Because so many of us were Team Deedra all the way. And it's painful that you didn't get that. And I hope that's not I'm not putting you on the spot, I swear, but I hope that's not the last that we see of you in a really big public place, because you've done so much good for this city for sure.
Well, considering that just about everybody in Arizona likes to bring up my name of I should run or I shouldn't run every time the
Oh,
Senate is mentioned,
is that right?
means that we really made an impact. We
Yes.
really got our messaging and our values and the type of campaign we were running. We
Mhm.
really got it out there, and that is an
Yeah.
accomplishment.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I have seen your name in social media today, or actually, and I'd say the last 48 hours, more in this last 48 hours than I have probably in the last 6 months, because there's so much talk about, oh my gosh, imagine. And I know because you're hearing it and you're being tagged in these things
Being
as well.
tagged.
But it must be exciting. I know that you've spoken on some huge stages here in Arizona, and I've gotten to see you on some of those stages and work with you at some of those events. Do you do speaking engagements quite often?
Well, before the pandemic.
Yes, of
Yes.
course. Yes.
Yes, and the good thing is, even though I acquired these conversations while on a political campaign,
Mhm.
these conversations are not always about politics, and the
Right.
tools definitely aren't about politics.
Yeah.
So it's really taking something that was really high level, and politics are very scary for
Yeah.
people.
Hmm.
And this really shows that you can really be involved with these conversations and keep your values on difficult political conversations,
Yep.
as well as just normal everyday, did you really just say that conversations?
Yes. And that's what I noticed reading it, that even though I know you as a political influencer in our state, they weren't political at all, your examples. They were about things that we all have seen or heard or, witnessed and not known what to do with it, and I love that you're tackling these things because it's about humanity. It's about the way that we socialize within a system that works for all of us, and I really appreciated that, because at first when I saw the title of the book, I really expected more politics, and it's not politics. It's about how we treat one another, and I just found it to be so compelling and refreshing. It was
Well,
great.
I found it compelling and interesting and refreshing to reread it as I was making the
Did you?
book. And I think that says something, that,
Yeah.
even me, and I'm the one that lived them,
Yeah.
I was brought back to it. And I was laughing out loud at some of the conversations myself.
So great. I love that. So tell me this, were you always this rabble rouser, fighting for equity, front voice in the classroom kind of kid? Were you always like this?
Absolutely not. I was shy. I was lacked self-esteem. I was analytical and I was observant, but I was always in my head.
Yeah.
But I was definitely afraid to speak up about things. Very few times did I do that. Although I'll tell you, one time in my 11th grade year, I really didn't have an opinion necessarily on abortion. And it came up in the class. And I remember one of my classmates, a popular boy, said, if girls would close their legs, they wouldn't need an abortion. And
Oh,
I raised my hand and asked the teacher if I could do a presentation on abortion.
wow. No kidding.
And
Wow.
I mean, I had to, I had to go to do the microfiche at the university, to get the
Yes. Oh,
statistics from
yes.
1920s,
Oh,
when,
yes.
all these women who were married, and it was illegal for them to have birth control or say no to their husband sexually, and they couldn't afford to feed another child, and their current
Right.
children were starving to death, and they
Mhm.
were the ones that were having these back alley abortions.
Yes.
And really, that it was a kicker for me. Like, I was the one that never spoke, never raised my hand. I mean, I just wanted to be a wallflower. Please
Yeah.
forget that I exist. That would be great. Thanks.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I've decided to take on the most controversial issue in the
Totally.
South.
Yes. Yes. And not only that, the same controversial issue that we're still talking about today, and so you just dove right in. So you're an attorney. Did you always want to be an attorney? Was that sort of the jumping point at that point of your life?
Originally, I wanted to be a teacher. I used to
Oh,
have a little closet and a desk with a chair and me with the door closed, cleaned out
okay.
everything. And I had imaginary students and a grading book, and I
Mm-hmm.
took a row of the whole thing. I do remember that when I was in later high school or early college, I used to pass by the law school in Little Rock and think, wow, it would be nice if I could do that. People like me, poor, don't go
Mm.
to law school. And especially at the time, it was against the rules for you to work for the first 2 years of law school. So
Wow.
you had to be financially sufficient or get a whole
Sure.
bunch of loans, I guess, in
Yep.
order to go to law school. So it just never seemed like something that was possible. After I moved to Arizona, I got into civil rights, ran into so many people who felt that they had the right not to follow the law,
Mm.
just simply because no one was making them. And
Mm-hmm.
so they would tell me. I mean, even Arpaio told me, which is what sent me to law school. His people told me that if they knew what the law was and they weren't going to follow it, and if I didn't like it, I could sue. So I went to the
Wow.
ACLU, gave them the case. They took the case, won the case. And I went to my husband and said, yeah, it's time for me to go to law school. And my
Wow.
husband was very supportive. Of course, I was sitting back going, man, I'll be like 40 when I graduate. And then I thought, but I'll be 40 even if I don't graduate.
So powerful. So incredibly powerful. One of the things that I hear from a lot of women. So I've had a speaking and training business now for, you know, 30 years. And I say that because I can't believe that, oh, here I still am. But I literally started when I was 19 as a trainer. And so that, of course, has gotten me to a place where I've gotten coaching certifications. I'm an executive strategist, but that's the one thing that I hear from women more than anything else. I don't think I want to be doing this for 25 more years. And so that's what women are wanting help with is how do I pivot? How do I change? I've done this for 20 years. How do I change now? And I think there's so much power in what you just said. You know, you're going to be 40 or you're going to be 50 with or without that goal, dream, certificate, you know, or degree. And so why not you? Why not now? And I think there's such power in that belief, in that truth.
You know, you only have so many years to live, and we don't even know how many those years are.
Yeah.
You can either decide to be happy, decide what's going to make you happy, what you want to at least try,
Yeah.
and decide what you're willing to sacrifice for it,
Hmm.
and then do it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I also think to add on to that, that having some kind of true north, something that you can merge, a belief, a feeling, a value that absolutely lights your soul on fire is what keeps you in that game, working through the trials and tribulations, working, those longer hours, because working on your goal and dream does take a lot of effort. And I'm curious, what is your true north? Like what keeps your fire burning for you?
That I know myself. I mean, that's my number one thing. And my mantra is I have to look at myself in the mirror. Do I want to? Do I like what I see? Do I like
Mm,
where I've been? Do I like where I'm going? And
yeah.
that really is what keeps me grounded, let's say,
Hmm.
because because I know I'm going to ask myself that question, and
Hmm.
I'm going to have to answer that question to me, and only what I think matters.
Yes. Yeah. And that's hard, I think, for a lot of people. And I think that is so grounding and aware because I can tell you that for a lot of women, I actually call this the feminine dilemma in my work. And I would love to do something with that eventually. But anyway, this feminine dilemma is that I have to be a certain way. I have to serve others first. It's appropriate for me to behave like this. My mom did it, so I have to. There are all these things that we're taught from the time we're very, very young. And that feminine dilemma often gets in the way of knowing yourself and knowing what lights your fire and knowing what you're put on this planet to do. And I do believe that every single person is put on this planet with a talent that will impact others. I don't know what that is for each person, but I do believe that talent has been given to you. And it's for you to make those ripples happen. And I think so many of us get caught up in but I have to do this for them and I have to be this for another person. And we tend to be the last on our list. So there's so much power in the simplicity of just sort of being centered in yourself and saying, I got to look in the mirror at me, and I think that's hard for a lot of women. What would you say to women who struggle with that?
Again, the only person that really matters is the person looking back at you in the mirror, and everybody else having the expectations. I mean, you can sit at home in your bed and never do anything and people are going to attack you. So I say, make it worth it. Make it
Yeah.
worth it by whatever's going to please you. And
Yeah.
if the more you please you, the more you're going to please the people around you that matter.
I love that.
Because everybody who attacks you doesn't matter.
That's so true. And I think there's another lesson there that we put way too much weight or weighting on people that don't matter. Right.
Well,
And
right. And just as you were saying that, like, because my mom did this, or this is, what I grew up,
yeah.
thinking that this was what success was, that you really need to have that conversation. Like, does one time my husband brought home to me a cherry red, I don't know, some kind of a sports car.
Mm-hmm.
And he was so happy. And he brought it in, he had it in the garage, and he took me out and he was celebrating, and he was like, "Oh my God, I got you this car." And I said, "Oh my God, honey, it is so beautiful. Can you take it back?
No,
Because it's not my style."
no kidding. Oh
Because
my
I'm
gosh.
practical. I want not to have to crawl out of my car like I'm
Yep.
getting off the ground. I
Yep.
want to have my cups in a certain spot.
Yeah.
I want my car should be so comfortable that I don't even think about it. And
Yes.
though that car was beautiful, it had none of the functionality. And I know that functionality is what's important to me.
Yeah.
Cherry red
Absolutely.
sports car was important to him, and he is so welcome to it.
Yeah. Did he keep it?
No, he gave it back and
He did.
told me another car.
That is fantastic. And I don't think most women, and I'm not generalizing, trying to minimize the power of women on any level, but I don't think most of us would have done that. We would, okay.
Everybody's gonna be so jealous of my cherry red sports car.
Exactly.
I
Oh,
don't
I love
care.
that. I love that so much. Now, I have this audience of women that are somewhere between like 26 and 45. That seems to be our sweet spot. And I know that a lot of women that I work with are looking for sort of, the best advice you've ever been given or the nugget that you've held on to. And I know you told us that that's standing in your truth and knowing who you are and being able to look yourself in the eye is important. What would you say to a woman that is maybe starting a business, or branching into another area of her business? Is there anything that's helped you along the way to create, something that is sustainable and successful and impactful?
The number one thing is I always ask myself, what's the worst that can happen?
Nice.
And I really do evaluate that. It's not a hypothetical. What's the worst that could happen? So when I ran for US Senate, what's the worst that could happen? The
Mhm.
absolute worst was some crazy person could kill the Muslim girl. The next more rational worst thing that could happen
Yeah.
is I would lose.
Yeah.
And just sticking with the rational, can
Yeah.
I live with that? Second question, can I
Yeah.
live with that?
Yeah.
And that's how I decide if I want to shoot for the stars and reach the moon, it's what's the worst that could happen.
Yeah. So practical. Yeah, so practical. And can I live with it? I mean, there's so much power in that, and I'm just the opposite. I lead with my heart. I go with all my hope and gusto and all of that. And I think I probably would have saved myself a lot of, you know, contingency plans that I had to then create quickly on the fly by just doing that, and I think there's wisdom in that practicality, that when we're full of fire and full of excitement and we want to get something moving and this is my goal and dream and purpose on the planet, we jump so far ahead that we don't think about the other side of it. And I think that there's really practical wisdom in that. And I'm writing that one down when we're done, because I need to know if I can live with that. The worst case scenario. I think there's real magic there. So I want to transition just a little bit here into our speed round questions. And I love the speed round because the speed round allows me to ask you things that are just a little more casual and fun, and I get sort of a better idea about who you are as a person. So I'm going to throw some questions at you, and you just tell me what comes to mind, and we'll just move on to the next one, and we'll just go through this quickly. Cool?
Okay.
All right. So your first question is, if you could sit with any woman on a park bench for an hour from history, who would this woman be for you?
Eleanor Roosevelt. I want to know how she dealt with the things that she dealt with in the time that she dealt with them, because
Nice.
they were impressive with a lot of oppression. Especially,
Nice.
I mean, she was the vice, I mean, she was the wife of the president of the United States, and yet the FBI was monitoring her. I mean, she had a lot of glitches.
Yeah. Wasn't she also the first woman, first lady who had ever decided to actually have this sort of work that she was going to do? Wasn't she the first woman to break out and say, I'm going to do more than just be the first lady? I feel like she was the woman that had an agenda first.
I don't know that she was the first woman who had an agenda or did work. She was the first woman that was loud and proud about it.
Okay.
That's what brought out her. Yeah.
There you go.
She was like, yeah. So, by the way,
Yes.
we're doing this.
Yes. Okay. Very cool. Okay. So are you, when it comes to your types of foods, are you sweet or savory?
Savory.
Nice. So am I, for sure. Take a bag of chips all day long over something sweet. So if you were to win a big chunk of money for the lottery, what would your first spend be?
Since we just got out of a pandemic and we're still in the roller coaster ride of it, I'm going to have to say a vacation, which normally would
Yes.
not be my first choice.
Yes. 100%. I am so there with you.
A
What?
vacation outside my home.
Yes. Right.
Maybe
Something further than
actually
the
outside of my
backyard.
state.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So, and by the way, I just had some my friend's family get back from Hawaii. They went for a month. It was $1,300 for the house they rented for a month, $1,300. And the flight was next to nothing. So put that in your back pocket because that they just got back. So you can go
Well,
far these
after I'm
days.
vaccinated and people aren't trying to kill me by not wearing a mask and not social distancing,
Right.
then we'll get on a plane.
Right, right. And I've got my second vaccine coming on, let's see, the 16th. So it's right around the corner. There's freedom on the horizon, somewhat. All right. So the next one is, what is your favorite book?
I'm going to go with the four agreements and the fifth agreement because if you just read the headlines, just like in the news, you'll be confused about what it really is. So read the
Mhm.
book and read what it really is talking about.
Could not agree more. I got to get on that fifth agreement too, but I love the four agreements positively. So when you're dealing with stuff in your brain, are you more of a processor who thinks it through, talks it through, or actually moves through it, takes action fast?
I take action fast, but I'm thinking along the way.
Okay.
I
Okay.
can I can literally stop in mid step and change direction on a dime.
Yeah, I would probably drive you crazy because I'm the one that's talking my way through the insanity to find clarity. So, yeah, right. Are you a pineapple on your pizza person?
Not lately, but before I was Muslim, I did eat pineapple with ham on my pizza.
Got it.
But yeah, lately I haven't been.
Okay. Okay. And what's your theme song? If you were walking out on a stage, 50,000 people there to see you, your book has hit New York Times bestseller list. What song are you walking out to?
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down.
I love that song so much, and I've got great memories of that song. So fabulous choice. Are you living past 100?
I don't care as long as I like the first 100 years, and that's my goal.
I
I'm gonna
love
be on
it.
my deathbed with no regrets because everything that I've been through got me where I am today, and I wouldn't change one of those things because I'd be in a different place than I am today.
Oh, best answer. Yes. Best word to describe you.
Decisive.
Nice. I absolutely. Yes. And finish this sentence. When I'm really old, I hope to see.
Women being able to go to work without being sexually harassed.
Yes. Positively. Me too. Positively. Thank you for that. And thank you for being here. And I'm so honored that you were able to slip in some time and, do this with me. And I'm just really grateful for you. And I want to make sure that people know where to find you, whether it's your business, the book, online with social media. Where can people find you?
It's Deedra Abboud, Deedra Abboud, Abboud. It's deedraabboud.com for the blog. It's Deedra Hill Abboud for Facebook, or Deedra for Arizona for Facebook, or it's Abboud as in Abboud. It's Abboud time. I'm sorry. It's let's talk about it. Let's
Yes.
talk about it. Is a Facebook group. We had a hashtag. It's Abboud time,
Yep.
and pretty much you can Google Deedra Abboud and find Deedra Abboud. I'm like the least hidden person probably ever.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I will say, just to sort of, asterisk and put a little emphasis on this, I love getting your blogs. I love getting, seeing your posts come up online. I love seeing, my gosh, the activity. I don't know if you manage your own social, but holy moly, you must have hundreds and hundreds of notifications constantly because just the activity is so much fun, to see you interacting and what people say and how they interpret. So big fan here, real big fan.
Me and Tara, and I'm very
Okay,
good at managing. So things do not drive me crazy. I don't allow them. I have
good.
very good boundaries.
That's good.
But no is a sentence with a period.
Yes. That's right. With a period. That's right. With a period. Yes. Well, I've loved this, and I will make sure that all of your links and all of your information is in with, the description of the show so that people can find you easily. And again, thank you so much for this. Thank you for all of you who have been tuning in. Before we go, I want to make sure that I give a quick shout out to our sponsor. Our sponsor is Go With The Flow, and they are an organization out of Arizona that provides students with period packs. These are students that have been hit economically and are unable to get the supplies that they need at home. So what Go with the Flow does is provides these period packs to the schools and the students so that they can live without humiliation and they can have the stability that they need. We know that graduation rates are very impacted by these students that don't have what they need because they end up missing a week of school a month. Well, imagine that over a 4-year period and how that looks at the end of that school, chunk. And so what they do is they give these kids what they need so that their graduation rates are not negatively impacted. So if you're interested in being a part of Go with the Flow, you can go to gowiththeflowaz.org. They're always looking for people to contribute supplies, be a part of what's going on. And if you would like to contribute money, that is always helpful as well. So again, thank you, Deedra. Thank you, all of you who are listening and watching, and we will see you in about a week. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.